Hey everyone, John from Bike Fit Advisor. Now, more and more these days, especially with any type of mountain bike or flat bar bike, we're starting to see the width of the bars get wider and wider. And from a personal standpoint, I like this. I like wide bars. I've always felt more comfortable on them, but they can create issues for a lot of people. Now, if you're just a smaller rider, or maybe you have some limitations in your hip or your lumbar mobility, maybe you just have a shorter arm span, your arms aren't quite as long, they can create some difficulties in feeling comfortable and fitting your bike well. This is a bike actually of a friend of mine who's also a client. And it's relatively new to her. She's just had it for a few weeks. And she has just noticed that a few different symptoms. She just doesn't feel comfortable on the bike, just in a vague sort of way. She has been having some neck and upper back problems. She asked what we could do about it, so we took a look at her, and the most striking thing about this bike really is the bars. I mean, they are for the size of this bike, they are exceptionally wide, especially for someone like her who's only about 5'3". So if I take tape measure and measure these out, so let's see, so these are 760 millimeters long. Okay, to put that into perspective, the reach for her bike here, where we would measure from her sitting surface to the bar, is only 660. So this is 10 centimeters wider than this is long. Yeah, that seems excessive. So actually what I'm going to do for her today is I'm actually going to start by cutting the bars down and do a couple other little changes. But bars like this, it doesn't even have to be this extreme, and they can create issues. So again, first of all, they can make the bike just feel big, because the wider the bars are, the less your arms, as they reach forward, the less they're actually going forward, and because they're going out so much. These wider bars have the effect of they actually shorten your arms, essentially. Now, because of the wider stance on the grips, the second thing they can do is they can require more stability through the upper body and through the back. And this is where the neck and the shoulder discomfort comes from, especially like my client was experiencing. And now finally, they can create some hand and wrist pain, because as the hands go out, especially the straighter the bar is, it's going to put the hand and the wrist into what's called radial deviation. It's actually going to take the wrist and bend it towards the radius side of the forearm. This can create a lot of irritation at the wrist. It can also create some difficulty for people who already have some issues, like with their thumb joint, or what we call the CMC joint down here. I've even had a number of people where, due to the width of the bars and the shape of the bars, they have difficulty activating the shifter even, because of the position and the stress that it puts on their thumb. Again, we're going to cut these bars down. Another thing some clients might need to look into is narrowing the bar width, but also maybe looking for a different bar that has a bit more sweep. And I've alluded to this in the past in other videos, and the sweep has to do with how much the bar bends back towards you. So we have rise, where it comes up, but sweep is where it bends back towards you. Now these are fairly minimal, especially for as wide as they are. I guess these have the standard sweep is somewhere around 6 degrees or so, and these look to be about that. But I've found that a safe rule of thumb is, as the bars get wider, a little bit more sweep tends to help with some of the stresses that it places on the wrist and even into the upper body. What a bar with more sweep will do is, because this bar is relatively straight, you'll notice that when I'm hanging on here, it tends to want to have my elbows, you can see which direction they're facing. They're kind of facing towards the outside. And it's difficult, because of my wrist position, to actually drop them down. When the elbows are pointed out, it has a tendency to drive the shoulders up a little bit. We tend to have this sort of, what looks like a sort of strong position on the bike, but this can get really tiring over time. With a swept bar, a little more sweep brings the wrists into a neutral position, kind of brings the hands so they angle back towards you, and allows you to drop those elbows down. And we can then, when the elbows drop down, then so do the shoulders. And so we can get a much more relaxed posture up top. Now for this rider, because these bars are what they are, we'll try it first. We're going to cut them down to see if that helps. If not, then we'll probably explore and look for a bar that we can get to that same width. And these are 760. I'm probably going to cut them down to about 720 to start with. We can always cut more later if we need to. So I'm going to take about 2 centimeters on each side. That'll be 4 centimeters total. So 760 minus 40 millimeters. And but if that doesn't work, we will look for a bar with a bit more sweep. So I'll probably be looking for something with maybe 12, maybe 15 degrees of sweep at the most, something like that. I think that would probably put her wrist position in a fairly neutral spot. So if you're struggling on your mountain bike, this is something definitely to look at is the bar shape and the width, and see if you can't make some determinations on maybe you need to go with a little narrower setup, maybe with a bit more sweep. So that's all for this one. Thanks everyone. I will see you next time.